Hola amigos. So today I'm going to show you how to make a techno bass rumble. It's a very simple, straightforward process that works every time, and you can use just literally one kick drum. So let's get straight to it. So as you can see, I've already loaded a kick drum. It was initially a kick drum that had a bit of a subby low end tail, so I've edited that. So we've just got really the transient snap. Let's have a listen. So next, what I do is I send it to a bus channel, and this is a bus channel preset that I've already got saved, which is called Rumble. On the send channel, I've got a reverb, a delay, a gain for mono control and phase inversion. I've also got a bit of EQ, filter, a multi-band saturation tool, a sidechain tool, bass exciter, and then a dynamic multi-band compressor just to shape the sound a little bit more for final touches. As it is, it's just dry. First things first, I'll turn on the reverb. Now the reverb I'm using is the Pro R reverb by FabFilter. Good thing with this is you've actually got a filter in the reverb, as you do with most, but this one's more like equalization sort of filter. So if I turn that on, I'll leave the filter open so you can hear it as it is. So with this reverb, I've got it on a quarter note pre-delay. I've turned the distance to close as opposed to far. I've given it 888 milliseconds of space, very short decay rate, a very clean character, and a darker reverb because it's obviously a sub bass or a bass and a rumble that we're going for, so we want it quite dark. And I've taken the filter down, so I'm just low passing everything below 108 hertz. Now, the decay of the rumble, it's very short. So what I do next is I add a delay, and this delay will then obviously give it a long tail. The delay I'm using is a Logic stereo delay. Here are the settings, as you can see on the screen. Nothing too crazy. I mean, obviously you can play with these. You can see left and right are different. That doesn't really matter because we're going to be monoing this signal later on in the chain, but it's still good to play with. This is a setting I like, and this is how it sounds. So you can really start to hear now the bouncy sort of rumble. Next in the chain, I'm going to mono the signal. I'm also going to invert the phase of the signal, mainly because it doesn't sound as lumpy. When it comes to your kick and your bass relationship, it's very good to try and invert the phase on either your kick drum or your bass, either or. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The thing with your bass and your kick is you've got a lot of low end frequencies. Now your low end frequencies have got very long wave distance. Now with the longer distance sort of waves, you've got more chance of them phasing with each other. So yeah, it's very good to invert the phase just to hear how it sounds. So yeah, I've monoed it, inverted the phase, and this is how it sounds. Next on the channel, I've got a very slight bit of equalization. When you're sound designing bass, there's a lot of mud frequencies and boxy frequencies that you don't really want because they become too overpowering in the track, especially later on in the mix. So you really have to control between sort of 100, 120 to 300 hertz. In this case, I've just notched a little bit out of 176 hertz. So I've just cleaned it up a little bit and controlled that frequency space. So next on the channel strip, I've got a filter, and the reason for the filter, I don't really want anything high coming through as it is a low rumble. A little trick in engineering, when you want to make a sound better in a certain frequency range, it's not always about adding. Pull back some of the frequencies that you don't want that may be clashing with what you want to stand out. So in this case, what I've done is I've put a low pass filter on and taken that down to 400 hertz. Next in the channel strip, the Saturn 2 multi-band saturation tool. Good thing with this is that you can control certain bands of the frequencies. Obviously on my sub, it's got reduced mid frequencies, reduced treble, and a boosted bass, all going through a warm tape, and I've got that on 55%. Then from 65 hertz to 250 hertz, I've controlled that again with a little less mid, a little bit of a boost on the bass, and again some saturation there. And then the top end frequencies, not much going on, a little bit of saturation, and the treble actually could go back to 0. I don't really want too much going on there. Let's have a listen to that. So now you can hear obviously that rumble is becoming a deeper sound. What I want to do next is actually sidechain it. Now this is a really cool tool if you haven't heard of it already. Nicky Romero Kickstart 2 is actually a really cheap plugin and very effective. It takes up very little CPU power, which is always a winner for me. So yeah, we've got all these different sort of sidechain patterns that you can select from. You can alter them, move them around. I've gone for the first one here. That just ducks the bass under the kick drum. Next in the chain, I've got a bass exciter. This is the Waves R bass. This is a great exciter for bass. There's many out there. It doesn't matter which one you use. I prefer this one myself personally. The good thing with this is you can actually leave just the excited signal, which is what I've done in this case. I've excited the 55 hertz range, and yeah, as you can see, I haven't turned it up that much. It's just giving it a bit more low-end rumble. And then last but not least, I've got the multi-band dynamic compressor by Isotope, which is part of the Ozone package. It's actually Ozone 9, so it's quite old, but it still serves its purpose. I've really compressed from 300 hertz to 2500 hertz. Again, the low mids and the high mids, we don't really want them too overpowering. So I've really compressed those. Again, with the high and the tops, I've compressed that quite a lot. And then slight bit of compression just to control the low end a little bit more. And this is the result. So as you can hear, that's a nice low-end rumble that we've got on the go. However, because of the delay and the pre-delay on the reverb, the rumble doesn't really get consistent until after the third kick drum. So now what we do is, this is relative to Logic, obviously. As you can see here, I've got the bus channel here. If you right-click on the bus channel, create track, right-click on the track in your main window then, in the empty space, and create MIDI region. And what I want to do is loop that until the end of the loop. Right click on that and bounce in place, and then bounce that as the rumble. So yeah, as you can see now, we've actually got a visual representation of the rumble. And like I said, it doesn't really get consistent until after the third kick drum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that over here. I'm going to make a 4-bar loop from that. And then this is going to be my rumble loop. And what we want to do is we want to fade the edges because otherwise they'll clip. After you've got the visual representation, you can really go in and deep dive and have a look. So once we've got the rumble, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the kick drum. We're going to turn off that bus because we don't want to send it to that bass rumble channel anymore. And I'm actually just going to go to the mixer and delete that because it's just unwanted CPU power that we don't really need now. We've already got the rumble, so let's just get rid of that. Cool. Right then, now let's listen to what we've got. So it's as easy as that. I hope you've taken away something from this video. Maybe this is something that you can incorporate into your process. The good thing is you can manipulate the pre-delay, the reverb itself, manipulate the delay before you mono them in the channel strip, and you can come up with some really cool sort of creative rumbles. So yeah, thanks for watching and catch you soon.